Heartwarming, director humiliates a poor boy on piano, but an unexpected talent is revealed. Sam sat quietly in the corner of the small, dimly lit room, his fingers dancing over the worn piano keys like a whisper in the dark. Each note echoed a hope that felt fleeting in the shadow of the dilapidated diner where his mother worked long hours. Outside, the Midwestern sun cast a weary glow over the faded homes of their small town, a reminder of the economic weight pressing down on families like his own. Yet in this little sanctuary, Sam felt alive. This music was his secret, a world he created for himself and his little sister, Lily, who often curled up on the couch, dreaming alongside him. As the annual community talent show approached, excitement buzzed in the air, but for Sam, it felt like a cruel tease. The affluent kids at school laughed and taunted him, their laughter hanging over him like a storm cloud. "You don't belong here, poor kid," they sneer. Each word dug deeper, leaving a wound that festered. Sam longed to share his gift, but the fear of ridicule stifled his dreams. The first rehearsal was a disaster. The local director, a man with a pompous air and an even more inflated sense of privilege, scoffed as Sam stumbled onto the stage. "What do you think you're doing up here?" he jeered, eyes narrowing. "This isn't a place for a poor boy like you." The laughter reverberated through the hall, piercing Sam's heart. He felt humiliated, each mocking chuckle etching itself into his mind. He wanted to disappear, but then he saw his mother, her face a mask of hurt and determination. She approached him after rehearsal, cupping his cheek in her calloused hand. "Listen, Sam," she said softly. "Resilience is what shapes us. You've got to practice harder, ignore the naysayers, and play for yourself." Her eyes sparkled with unwavering belief, reminding him of the strength that lay in their family. Before Sam could think too long on it, a retired musician named Mr. Green approached him, an old guitar slung across his back. "I saw what happened out there," he murmured, his voice gravelly yet warm. "You have something special. Let us work together." That night, under a canopy of shimmering stars, Mr. Green stayed late, sharing his wisdom, guiding Sam through his fears. They laughed and shared stories, and through late-night practices, Sam found layers to his talent he never knew existed. Each session illuminated his passion, transforming it into something raw and beautiful. Yet echoes of the director's words haunted him. The night of the talent show arrived, charged with an electric anticipation. Sam stepped onto the stage, heart hammering in his chest. His palms were slick, but he glanced at Lily, her eyes wide with admiration, and his mother, filled with pride. He took a deep breath, allowing memories of their struggles to fuel his spirit. As his fingers glided over the keys, a breathtaking melody emerged. It was as if he poured every sorrow and joy into that music, creating a bridge between fear and hope. The crowd held their breath, captivated by the transformation unfolding before them. And just as he reached the crescendo, he caught sight of the director's scowl, but it only fueled his resolve. Suddenly, Sam finished the piece with a flourish, a message of hope echoing through the hall, leaving behind an undeniable spark. The audience erupted in applause, and for the first time, he sensed the tides shifting. The director felt the murmurs of discontent. The crowd wouldn't be silent any longer. In that moment, everything changed. Would this young boy's triumph finally break the barriers in their small town? The questions lingered like music in the air, closing the chapter with a heart full of anticipation. The applause swelled around Sam, wrapping him in a warm embrace. He blinked back tears, feeling the weight lift off his shoulders. For once, he wasn't just the poor boy in the corner. He was Sam the musician, the dreamer, the one who had dared to stand up for himself. Yet even as the joy flooded his heart, a gnawing worry anchored itself in his mind. Could this moment, this spark of light, really change anything? The director stood frozen at the edge of the stage, his expression shifting from mockery to disbelief. The audience, a sea of faces, had transformed into a cheering crowd unafraid to challenge the status quo. The whispers swept through the room, a sweet undercurrent of rebellion. "Who knew he had it in him?" someone murmured. Sam's heart raced at the realization, they were beginning to see him, really see him. As Sam stepped off the stage, Lily rushed up to him, her small body trembling with excitement. "You were amazing, Sam. I felt every note." Her face beamed under the stage lights, a radiant smile of pure pride. "Did you see the director? He looked so shocked." "Yeah, he did," Sam said, trying to shake off both the thrill and the anxiety. The applause echoed in his ears, but he needed to hold on to that bravery. He wanted to believe they could change more than just the talent show. He glanced back at the director, who was now conferring with other organizers, frustration radiating off him. Would he try to silence them again? In the crowd, Mr. Green stood with a proud grin. He caught Sam's eye and nodded, a comforting gesture that reminded Sam of the journey they had shared. "This is just the beginning," Mr. Green whispered as Sam approached. "Your music can change hearts. Let's make sure it reaches as many people as it can." Words settled heavy in Sam's heart. Could he really create change? Could his music resonate beyond that stage? He felt a flicker of hope and want mixing together, igniting a fire inside him that pushed him forward. But then, doubt slinked back in. He couldn't shake the oppressive weight of his past. As the evening continued, calls for more performances echoed through the hall. People were eager, inspired. Sam wondered if they'd consider him for an encore. It would require courage, more courage than he had ever summoned. His heart pounded as he glanced at the audience and saw familiar faces, kids from school who had belittled him, now whispering nervously among themselves. Just then, he spotted his mother standing by the back wall, holding a tray of untouched diner food. She seemed out of place, yet so proud. Sam took in her tired eyes, worn from long shifts and hard days. Her belief in him pushed him, ignited something deep within. "Lily," he said, looking down. "What if I play again? What if they laugh?" Her little fingers curled tightly around his. "They won tea. You showed them the real you. Just play like you did before." Her words were a balm to his frayed nerves. Taking a deep breath, he stepped back into the spotlight, a mix of dread and determination surging through him. The crowd hushed, anticipation crackling in the air. He positioned his fingers over the piano keys again, feeling the surge of power, the spark. As he began to play, something shifted inside him. He poured his heart into the melody, every note a declaration, every chord a challenge to the world that told him he was less than. This time, there were no chains binding him. But just as he reached for the climax, he noticed a group of boys snickering at the back. Something twisted in his gut. Would this truly make a difference? And as the final note lingered in the air, Sam's eyes locked onto the director. Would he finally accept the power of music to unite, or would he double down on his dismissal? The question hung over the room like an unfinished song. The final note echoed hauntingly in the air before dissolving into a tense silence. Heart pounding, Sam scanned the audience. Faces were filled with anticipation, but a few still wore the smirks he had come to dread. He took a shaky breath, feeling a wild urge to hide. But ever since he had stepped onto that stage, he had learned something powerful about himself. He would not back down. Lily's eyes sparkled, the excitement in her tiny frame palpable. "You were so good, Sam," she whispered, as if her voice alone could make everything right. He wanted to believe her, to succumb to that rush of euphoria, but the doubt still lingered like a shadow in the corner of his mind. The director stood, expression stony, while conversations bubbled around him, confusion mixing with intrigue. Sam held his breath, waiting for his reaction. What an unexpected performance! The director finally began, constraining any hint of amusement. "But let us not get carried away. This is a talent show after all, not some fantastical dream." A few gasps threaded through the audience. Sam felt his skin flush hot with embarrassment. The crowd had shifted, yet here it was again, an attempt to stifle him, just like before. But the whispers were no longer solely in mockery, they were filled with a sense of defiance. "Who are you to decide what is real?" Someone shouted from the audience, the word striking like lightning. Sam's heart leaped. Did they really mean it? Were they rising for him? His pulse quickened, the embers of his earlier confidence sparking back to life. The bravery in the air began to fan out, heated by each shout and cheer. Lily squeezed his hand tighter. See? They're with you. Maybe Sam isn't good enough for you, but he's enough for us. Someone else yelled. This time it felt like a collective roar, a wall of voices embracing him, lifting him above the scorn. As the crowd rallied, chanting his name, Sam's doubt began to slip away, replaced by an insistent surge of hope. The director's face darkened, confusion battling with irritation. He raised his hand to silence them, but the audience couldn't be muzzled. Sam took an instinctive step forward, feeling the music within him pulse and thrum an unyielding force. He had come too far to let anyone stifle this moment. Just listen, he breathed, returning to the piano. His fingers danced across the keys again. This time, he played from a place deep within, where vulnerability met strength. He transformed the melody into something else, a heartbeat, a connection. Each note flowed effortlessly, igniting memories and dreams of belonging. Faces of the people he had known flickered through his mind, each one a reminder of the love he had fought so fiercely for. The music spoke volumes that words never could. The crowd continued to rally around him, the energy in the room pulsing like a living entity. They were no longer passive observers. They were part of this moment, part of his melody, but at the back of the room, the director glared, fists clenched as he leaned into his phone, likely eager to end this display of unity and raw talent. Did he have any last tricks up his sleeve? As Sam played with every ounce of his being, he felt barriers around him begin to fade. Finally, he glanced up. The audience's faces gleamed with admiration, encouragement washing over him. Their smiles were radiant, just like Lily's. Then, in the corner of his eye, he caught movement. A figure pushed through the crowd, someone rushing forward with intent. Sam's heart dropped in anticipation. Who was it? Was it another skeptic? Or was there a chance for unexpected support? The music echoed, a symphony of possibilities, yet Sam's mind swirled around uncertain questions. What would happen once the last note faded? Would he find hope or face rejection anew? The notes began to rise in tension, blending into a crescendo of emotion that felt like it could break the walls around him. Sam searched the crowd, his eyes locking onto the figure who had pushed through. A twist of fate or yet another cruel twist from the director. It was Jenna, the girl from his art class, a fierce ally in a world that sometimes felt cold. Her vibrant red hair flew behind her as she made her way to the front, determination etched on her face. Sam felt something warm build in his chest, the tendrils of hope weaving through his anxiety. But would she be here to support him? Or would she be another voice against him? Sam! She called, her voice cutting through the noise, clear and unwavering. Keep playing. You're amazing. He barely registered the purity in her words because all he could feel was the weight of the director's malevolence looming above him. But the swell of support from the audience was infectious. Sam glanced at Lily, her small frame bouncing with excitement, urging him on. He couldn't let them down, not now. With newfound determination, Sam released a deeper sound from the piano, the resonance vibrating through the air, striking every heart in the room. His fingers flew, igniting hope and courage, transforming doubt into a radiant clarity. Each note was a pulse of his desires, his dreams, each one louder and more powerful than the last. The audience swayed, and Jenna began to clap. Soon, other hands joined in, creating a rising rhythm that shifted the atmosphere entirely. This was no longer just about his performance. It became a collective moment, an assertion of unity against the scornfully casual dismissiveness of authority. Sam's heart raced as he saw more faces lighting up, caught in the spell of his melody. They weren't just passive onlookers, they were participants in something beautiful. They were rising against the negativity together, stitching a tapestry of connection with every single note Sam played. The director's expression tightened, his phone now held tightly in his grip. Sam could see the growing frustration there, a stark reminder of how much was at stake. Would he let the naysayers swallow this moment, or would he dare to rise above it? "Sam!" Jenna shouted again, her voice fierce. "Don't stop. Just be you." He found a new resolve in her words. In that instant, he played as if it was his last chance ever, each key pressed with an urgency that was as exhilarating as it was terrifying. The final notes poured from him like a clearing storm, raw vulnerability intertwining with a bold strength he didn't know he possessed. Then, suddenly, the music faded into an almost stillness. Silence cloaked the room momentarily, the air thick with anticipation. Sam opened his eyes to find the crowd's expression had shifted from surprise to awe, confusion to admiration. "Is this over?" came a tiny voice from Lily, breakable yet hopeful. Just as he took in their faces a mix of smiles and tears, there was a sudden, loud crash. The director had dropped his phone, his anger boiling over. His eyes burned into Sam, hot with fury. "Enough of this ridiculous charade!" he roared, words slicing through the tension like a blade. "You're just a boy playing at dreams." The collective gasps from the crowd spoke volumes. An electric shock ran through Sam, igniting fear and determination at once. But somewhere deep inside him, a flicker ignited, echoing Jenna's words. Would he accept the director's disparagement as truth? Or would he stand his ground? The audience held their breath, caught between tension and hope. His next move would define everything. As Sam stared into the sea of faces, his new champions, an unexpected sense of calm washed over him. He took a deep breath, ready for whatever came next. But in that moment of silence, another figure appeared, rushing from the back of the room, a flash of brightness cutting through the tension once more. Who could it be now? All he could do was wonder as his heart raced. Could this be yet another ally, or would it bring the weight of more conflict that he wasn't prepared for? The figure emerged like a burst of sunlight breaking through a dark cloud. Sam squinted, his heart thumping as he strained to see. It was Max, a kid from the band who had always seemed to glide right past the complexities of high school life with effortless charm. His reputation as a top-notch saxophonist preceded him, and in that moment, Sam felt a mix of relief and confusion. Why was Max here now? The crowd's murmur shifted as people recognized the newcomer, the energy crackling with potential. Max dashed toward the stage, his confidence contagious. With a deep breath, he grabbed the saxophone hanging around his neck, anticipation radiating off him. The collective heartbeat of the audience quickened as they leaned forward, sensing something magical was about to unfold. "Let us show him what real music sounds like," Max shouted, his voice booming over the stunned silence. He stepped beside Sam, and the piano seemed to hum back with a renewed vigor, craving the connection that music promised. Sam looked at Max, unsure whether to be grateful or worried. Could this be a distraction? But there was no time for doubt. Max launched into a powerful riff that flowed like smooth honey, layering over Sam's piano notes, weaving their sounds into a tapestry rich with tones and emotions. As they played together, the air filled with harmonic beauty that soared above the initial chaos. Sam caught a glimpse of Jenna in the front row, her eyes sparkled with joy, and the breath of encouragement she held ignited his spirit even more. The director stood there, mouth agape, caught off guard by the spellbinding transformation of a moment he thought he could crush. The music seemed to take on a life of its own, swirling around the room, drawing smiles and laughter. Sam felt the pulse of a collective heartbeat, united in creative rebellion. Families and friends, students and teachers, even an elderly couple he had never seen before were nodding along, caught up in the moment. "Just keep going," Max called out, and Sam could feel the synergy between them. With every note pressed, every breath taken, they created a sanctuary from judgment and fear. The director, now visibly flustered, shifted his eyes from the glowing audience to the joyful duo, helpless against the tide of shared experience. Lily bounced in her seat, her voice echoing, "This is amazing, Sam." Her joy radiated like the sun breaking through, illuminating their tiny corner of the world, banishing darkness. But mixed in with the joy was an underlying tension. How would the director react? Would this simple act of unity be enough to withstand his wrath? The final notes soared high, a triumphant cry filling the vast space. For a moment, everything hung in the balance, poised on the edge of something monumental. When the last sound faded, the silence that followed was deafening heavy, but charged with raw emotion. And then, it happened. A thunderous ovation erupted from the crowd. Cheers filled the air, swelling until it felt like the walls would burst. Sam's heart soared as he looked around, taking in the smiles, the applause, the undeniable acceptance, but just as the atmosphere thickened with celebration, the director stepped forward, his voice slicing through the cheers like a sharpened knife. You think this is over? You think talent is just about sound and spectacle? His coal-black eyes narrowed, calculating and fierce. You have no idea what you're really up against, and I won't let this stand. Sam's breath caught in his throat, the weight of the words sinking in. What would happen next? Would he and Max stand firm together against the tide of disapproval, or was this moment merely the calm before the storm? It felt like everything hung in the balance, and Sam knew that was the real turning point ahead. Sam's heart raced as the director's voice echoed through the auditorium, drowning out the jubilant applause. The joy they had just conjured felt so fragile now, like glass shattering under pressure. Max stood beside him, saxophone still tucked under his arm, eyes narrowed with defiance as they braced for what would come next. Do you really think this crowd cares about the rules? The director pressed, his tone dripping with disdain. They've been fooled into thinking that what you did was music. Stand up, stand against authority, we'll see how far that gets you. A hush descended over the audience, tension rippling through the air, squeezing the joy out of the room like juice from a lemon. Sam's stomach turned. It was clear, the director wasn't just a man in charge, he was a storm, and this was his thunder. But something ignited within Sam, a flicker of determination against the dark clouds sweeping in fast. He turned toward Max, searching for something, anything, to guide him through this. Max met his gaze, and in that moment, they were more than just two kids on a stage, they were a force, ready to push through the fear. Let us do it again, Max said, his voice steady despite the chaos. Show him what real music means. And just like that, they were back in sync. Sam's fingers flew across the keys, and he let the music crash over him like waves, powerful and relentless. Max joined in again, his saxophone singing with soul, expressing everything that words could not. Each note swirled through the auditorium, binding everyone together once more, even amidst the disapproval of the director's looming presence. That I in the front row, Jenna beamed, her face lit up like a lighthouse guiding them. Sam could feel her encouragement like a warm embrace driving him forward. He poured his heart into the keys, hoping it would reach her, hoping it would echo out and drown out the director's venom. Suddenly, something shifted, the crowd, initially taken by shock, began to sway to the rhythm. It was subtle at first, an elderly man tapping his foot, a small child dancing in her seat. Then the movement spread like wildfire. Cheers bubbled up, igniting a new energy that spread from individual to individual, each person shaking off the weight of fear. Don't give up. Lily shouted from behind the first row, her voice a bright spark against the somber backdrop. Sam looked up, seeing the faces around him light up in unison, friendly spirits rallying for the music, for the freedom it represented, but the director wasn't done yet. He stepped closer, arms crossed, eyes flashing as he barked orders. Stop. This is unacceptable. The crowd's spirits shifted, confusion passing through the audience, but Sam held on to the moment. His fingers danced across the piano, and he knew he had to keep the fire alive. He pushed harder, pouring out every ounce of energy he possessed. Together, he murmured to Max, nodding. They both leaned in, and together they elevated the piece into a soaring anthem. It felt like the music itself was reaching back at the director, challenging him, daring him to suppress their passion. With one final crescendo, the piece exploded, filling the space with a vibrant swirl of sound. Sam's heart raced. Perhaps he couldn't fight the director's power, but he could fight for their moment, for every student who had ever felt unheard, powerless, and unseen. As the final notes lingered in the air, the audience erupted again, cheers and applause overwhelming the director's icy glare. Sam's breath was shaky, heart leaping in his chest as he took in the electrifying response, but among the clapping and excitement, he noticed Max's expression change. The confidence waned, replaced by uncertainty. Glancing back, Sam saw the director stepping forward again, his expression darker than before. "What do you really think will happen next?" Max's voice wavered as he looked to Sam, and uncertainty crept back in. Sam swallowed hard, feeling the weight of their moment precariously hanging in the balance. Together, Sam whispered, taking Max's hand, preparing for what the director might unleash. What other obstacles awaited them? Would this unexpected spark of unity stand against a looming storm? The tension thickened in the air as the director tightened his grip on his clipboard, his disapproval glaring through the hall. Sam's heart pounded, a chaotic drumbeat in his chest as he turned back to Max. They were in this together. No turning back. "Listen, we can't let him do this," Max breathed, his eyes darting toward the crowd. "They're with us. We won't let him silence us." Sam nodded, emboldened by Max's words. He could see the audience rising, a wave of support growing in their excitement. Every clap, every cheer was fuel for their fight. But the director's voice cut through the energy like a knife. "You think this is a game? You're just a distraction." He stepped further onto the stage, a dark shadow eclipsing the light of their moment. "I'll make sure you regret this insubordination." Sam clenched his jaw, fighting the fear creeping into his mind. He glanced at Max, who was already shaking his head as if sensing Sam's doubt. They had to keep going. They could be louder than the director's anger. "Ready?" Sam asked, determination surging through him. "Always," Max replied, determination shining in his eyes. They assumed their positions once again, and in that instant, a profound understanding passed between them. They would fight not just for themselves but for everyone who ever felt silenced. The music began anew, rising in defiance. The crowd joined in, their voices blending with the melody, creating a beautiful chorus that filled the auditorium. Sam let the expression overpower him, letting his keys resonate with every ounce of passion he felt. Max's saxophone soared above, a clarion call that echoed strength. "Don't stop!" someone yelled from the back. That encouragement spread like a wildfire through the audience, surging with a fierce energy. It was contagious, their unity pushing back against the storm, but the director wasn't done. He rushed closer, his face contorted with fury. "Enough! This is nothing but chaos!" he shouted, trying to drown them out. "Do you hear them?" Sam shouted back, feeling his spirit ignite. "This is real music. This is what we stand for." The crowd roared, and in that moment, they felt unstoppable. Sam and Max poured everything they had into their performance, igniting the passion that wrapped around them like a warm embrace. Every note struck like a heartbeat, powerful and alive, yet in the corner of his vision, Sam saw the director raise a hand, signaling for the sound system to be cut. Panic threatened to grip him, but as the power flickered, the audience surged forward, a wave of support crashing against the director. "Stop him!" someone shouted. "Don't let him take this." Fear transformed into something greater: hope. The crowd began to chant, "Music! Music! Music!" Each voice rose, layering over the other, uniting in a crescendo that felt almost magical. Sam's breath caught in his throat, understanding dawning on him. This was more than just a performance, it was a movement. Through the uproar, the director faltered, his confidence wavering. The energy in the room shifted. Max looked at Sam, wide-eyed. "It's working!" he exclaimed, a grin breaking through his uncertainty. "We've got this." With one final push, they played harder than ever. The music surged, echoing through the walls, binding everyone together in a tapestry of defiance and strength. Then, suddenly, the lights dimmed, plunging the auditorium into darkness. Sam's heart dropped. Panic buzzed in the air as the music stopped short, then he heard it. A single voice broke through the silence. "Keep going." Jenna shouted from the darkness, and suddenly, more voices joined in, the sound swelling like the tide rising. Together. They shouted in unison, a rallying cry that roared through the shadows. Sam's heart raced. They were standing on the edge of something extraordinary. But the moment flickered like a candle in the wind. Could they sustain this fight? "Are you ready?" Sam whispered, searching for Max in the dimness. "Always," Max replied, his voice steady. As they took a breath, the lights began to flicker back to life. Would they break through the director's darkness once and for all? Or would it all come crashing down? The lights flickered back on, bathing the stage in a warm glow. Sam blinked against the sudden brightness, catching sight of Max ready by his side, his saxophone glinting with determination. The crowd's chanting broke through the haze of doubt that had threatened to envelop them. A few brave souls were waving their arms, rallying others like a rolling tide. "Let us give them something to remember," Sam breathed, fear now replaced by a fierce resolve. He pressed his fingers to the keys, and as he played, the notes danced like fireflies, illuminating the air. Max joined in, his saxophone weaving seamlessly into Sam's melody. The harmony soared, echoing with raw intensity that felt as if it could shatter the very confines of the auditorium. Each note built upon the last, creating a wave of sound that entranced the audience. People swayed in unison, caught up in the moment so pure, so electric. In the front row, Jenna's face lit up, radiant with pride. Sam caught her eyes, a spark igniting between them. This was for her, and for everyone who had ever felt overlooked or silenced. He could see it, kids with dreams in their eyes, people from all walks of life, standing together in support of something greater than themselves. The director, now an ominous figure on the sidelines, clenched his clipboard as if it were a lifebuoy in an ocean of chaos. He shouted something, but his words were drowned out by the fervor building around Sam and Max. Here on stage, they were wielding music like a sword, striking down the shadows of doubt. "Don't let up!" someone yelled from the back, emboldening them even further. "We believe in you." Sam could feel the weight of that belief on his shoulders, urging him forward. Then, in a moment of spontaneity, he shifted into a spontaneous improvisation, heart racing with every note. Max's eyes widened, and he jumped right in, matching Sam's pace beat for beat. The two began to weave a tale through their instruments, a journey that spanned from fear to triumph. The audience was no longer spectators, they were a part of this saga, feeding off the energy, rising higher and higher. But just as it felt like they were soaring, Sam caught the director's gaze. There was rage there, boiling under surface, and it electrified the air around them. For a split second, doubt crept back into Sam's mind. What if the director found a way to sabotage them? Suddenly, the director lunged forward, attempting to intervene. A small gasp escaped the crowd. But there was no backing down now. Sam and Max continued their performance, louder, faster, more alive. The energy pulsed as if it had its own heartbeat. "Together, remember!" Max shouted, meeting Sam's gaze. In that instant, there was a clarity that surged between them, a bond forged in music and defiance against oppressive silence. As if hearing their unspoken vow, the crowd roared louder than before, echoing back the passion and resolve that Sam and Max had ignited. But just as they reached the climax of their performance, the director's hand slammed down on the soundboard. The music cut abruptly, slicing through the moment like a knife. A chorus of gasps echoed off the walls, panic mingling with confusion. "Now what?" Sam's voice trembled, glancing at the sea of faces, their support palpable yet fragile. Max, holding his sax like a warrior's shield, locked eyes with Sam. "We don't stop, we can't." And without the music, an unexpected hum surged from the crowd. "Keep going. Keep going." They began to chant, their voices creating a melody of hope. The excitement was undeniable. Sam felt a spark ignite in the pit of his stomach, the kind that promised something greater. As he reached for the mic, something inside him shifted, clarity breaking the barrier of doubt. "Let us show him!" He yelled, and the crowd erupted, ready to stand together. Now, they weren't just performers, they were the heartbeat of a movement. With no instruments to guide them, what would Sam and Max create next? Would they find a way to turn the tide against the director's disruption? The stage was set for an epic showdown. One that could change everything. The energy in the auditorium surged, and the crowd's chanting filled the air like a powerful wind. Sam lifted the mic, his fingers trembling with anticipation. The director stood seething, disbelief painted all over his face. But this wasn't just about him anymore. It was bigger. It was about a community awakening, rising from the ashes of dismissal. "Hey, everyone!" Sam shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We can do this. Let us make something beautiful together." The audience erupted in cheers, their unified spirit sweeping over him like a warm embrace. In that moment, Sam realized the truth: he didn't need a fancy soundboard or perfect notes to create music. He had the people behind him, their voices a solid foundation for what was to come. He closed his eyes briefly, feeling that buzzing connection, and opened them again, steeling himself for what he was about to do. With a newfound resolve, he began to beat out a rhythm on the mic, a simple yet infectious pulse that invited the audience to join him. One by one, hands clapped, feet tapped, and slowly, they built an improvised percussion that filled the space. Sam watched as the crowd transformed, drawing strength from one another, a collective heartbeat making the walls vibrate. Max, catching the spirit of the moment, lifted his saxophone, brandishing it like a banner. Instead of playing a set piece, he stepped into the crowd, urging them to get louder, feel the music in their bones. It was no longer just a performance. It turned into a celebration, an anthem of defiance and unity. Jenna, standing in the front, was caught in that infectious rhythm, joy radiating from her smile. "Go, Sam! Go!" she yelled, and her energy pulsed through him. As he looked at her, he felt part of something much bigger than his own fear. It was a narrative of triumph over silencing systems, but the director was persistent. He pushed forward, desperately trying to regain control. "This is anarchy. Stop this. You will regret this," he shouted, though his voice was drowned out in a wave of resistance. Sam didn't flinch. Instead, he called out to the crowd, "What do we want?" "Freedom," they chanted back. "When do we want it?" "Now." It was astonishing how their voices intertwined, weaving together a tapestry of hope. In that moment, the auditorium wasn't just filled with sound, it was filled with courage. Sam felt tears well up in his eyes as he witnessed this raw power, a movement born from the sheer will of the people. They pushed forward, the rhythm gaining intensity. Sam himself was swept up in the current, moving instinctively. He beckoned Max back to his side, and just as the hurricane of sound reached its crescendo, Sam motioned for a halt. The room fell silent. And then, he dropped to his knees, his heart pounding with the unfiltered yearning to reach the core of every soul in the room. "This is our moment to be heard. Let them see us." The crowd erupted once more, louder than before, their voices echoing against the walls like an unstoppable wave crashing upon the shore. All eyes were fixated on Sam and Max, who were now like conductors of a symphony of defiance. The director's face twisted in something between fury and disbelief, but Sam felt a warmth coursing through him. Whatever happened next, they had already won. But before Sam could fully bask in the moment, a sudden silence fell, eerie and thick. A new voice, sharper and filled with authority, cut through the air. "Enough." Everyone turned. Who was this new face, and what would they do? The tension in the room felt like a rubber band pulled taut, ready to snap. Faces turned toward the entrance, where the town mayor stood, her expression a mixture of surprise and ire. "I received reports of this disturbance, and I will not allow it to continue." But as she spoke, something extraordinary happened. The crowd, emboldened by their unity, swelled in response. "Let them play. Let them play." They chanted, their voices rising above her words, a tidal wave of collective courage that filled the space with determination. Sam felt the rush of adrenaline and disbelief. Could this truly be happening? They weren't just standing against the director, they were pushing back against the very notion of being silenced. As the mayor stood at the forefront, face reddening with frustration, Sam stepped forward, bolstered by the people's energy. "Excuse me. This isn't a disturbance," he shouted, voice steady but shaking with emotion. "This is our song. We're not just here to entertain you or follow your rules. We want to express ourselves." The crowd erupted again, affirming his words. It was a powerful moment, as if time had momentarily paused just for them to exist. The mayor paused, her brows furrowing. In that instant, Sam could see her battling with her next move. He could feel the weight of her authority against the tide of emotions swelling around him. He had to seize this moment. Music is more than just sound, it's a voice. From the shadows came a familiar sound, a saxophone, weaving effortlessly through the whispers of the crowd. Max stepped forward, joining Sam's impromptu chorus, and before anyone knew it, the auditorium was alive again with sound, filled with heartfelt melody. The audience joined in, humming and clapping, drowning out any effort to silence them. It was infectious. Even the mayor's irritation began to soften as she witnessed the expression of pure joy and defiance flourishing before her eyes. In that moment, everything shifted. Sam opened his heart to the music, letting goodness and love spill out through every key he struck. It wasn't just a performance anymore, it was their anthem. They rose together, tall and proud, a community untamed by fear. Even the director looked rattled, his anger twisting into bewilderment. Respect is earned, not demanded. Someone from the crowd shouted, and that ignited a storm, a chant for acceptance and community that reverberated against the walls. The mayor's resolve cracked, and with a deep breath, she addressed the audience. "Perhaps I misjudged this moment," she admitted, glancing down at the director, who seated at the edge of the stage. "Maybe I failed to see how much this music truly means." A ripple of surprise spread through the audience, and then the air filled with awe. "Let us show you what we mean," Sam called out, inviting for one final crescendo. His fingers danced across the piano keys, doing the impossible, turning the sorrow, the struggle, and the triumph into a magnificent harmony. With each note, they transformed the auditorium into a place of celebration, where differences faded and unity emerged. The audience was there in body and soul, standing not only for Sam but for every person who had ever felt unseen or unheard. As the melody lifted, rising higher and higher, Sam caught a glance of Lily, her face radiating happiness. Mr. Green stood with teary eyes, nodding in encouragement. Even the director's tension began to fade into stunned acceptance. They had accomplished something incredible. They shattered the barriers that sought to divide them. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the performance reached its climax, a breathtaking finish that left everyone breathless. When silence finally settled, it wasn't oppressive. Instead, it was an embrace, a collective sigh, something shared among souls. Then, unexpectedly, a single clap echoed, followed by another, then another, until the auditorium roared with applause and cheers. Everyone stood, acknowledging not just Sam, but the spirit that brought them all together in a moment of beautiful transformation. Tears brimmed in Sam's eyes as the realization pulsed within him. They had changed not just the outcome of the talent show, their hearts had connected, shifting perspectives in profound ways. The director stood in disbelief, but now it hardly mattered. As the crowd buzzed with excitement, Sam smiled at his mother, his sister, and his friends. They weren't just spectators, they were part of something majestic, something that would echo through school hallways and community streets. And as the sounds of celebration filled the room, Sam knew he would keep playing. Because every note mattered, every heart mattered, and together they could spark the change they had longed for. "Keep playing for each other," he whispered to Max, and his friend grinned, ready to build on this moment, inspired to break down any lingering walls. As they began anew, the audience joined in once more, the power of togetherness rising to meet the sky. This was just the beginning, and it sparked a wave of change bigger than any moment. And as they played, they found their voices forever intertwined in harmony. Before they knew it, it was more than just music, it was a revolution. A beautiful melody that would carry them beyond that night, beyond the talent show, resonating through every corner of their community. Moments passed, applause rang louder, giving hope to all who had dared to dream. And as the future stretched out before him like a blank canvas, Sam smiled, embracing the power of music forever. Now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread these amazing transformations. Comment your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. Your voice matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible journey. True fans understand the importance of supporting this channel, so let us keep the momentum going.